So the other day we were talking about Hasan because he claimed that he was interrogated by Customs and Border Patrol as he was entering back into the United States after a trip abroad. Hasan was very upset about this and seems to believe that he's under some kind of investigation or some kind of intimidation campaign from the federal government, because apparently they care so much about him. Now, of course, I actually don't think that that's a super ridiculous idea, because Hasan has been on a lot of news stations recently with them bringing up stuff about his extremist views. Notably, Fox News was very critical of Hasan a few weeks ago, and I do think that, you know, it's possible that that might have influenced some people to take a look at him. But we actually have a response from the Customs and Border Protection about Hasan's claims and what they say happened. So if we go here to this NBC News article written by Callahan Rosenblatt and we scroll on down, we will see, when asked for comment about Piker, a Department of Homeland Security official called his account nothing but lying for likes. That's right, the official statement of the US government is that Hasan is somebody who lies for likes. You can take that to the bank and cash it. Claims that his political beliefs triggered the inspection are baseless. The Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin said in a statement, "Our officers are following the law, not agendas. Upon entering the country, this individual was referred for further inspection, a routine, lawful process that occurs daily and can apply for any traveler. Once his inspection was complete, he was promptly released." So yeah, basically the Department of Homeland Security is saying that it was a nothing burger, that Hasan got exactly the same treatment as so many other people do, and that there was nothing different about it and he got no special treatment. Hasan doesn't buy this though. He tweeted out, "The DHS response is so funny because they're not even disputing that it happened. They're omitting the insane questions that were asked and instead claiming that I wasn't targeted for my political beliefs. Why'd y'all ask me about Trump, Israel, Houthis, Hamas, and my Twitch bans then?" Well, actually, most of these, I can tell you, are pretty common things that they would ask you about. If they're going to be questioning you on your entry to the United States, they're going to ask you where you work, they're going to search that up. So they would see his Twitch bans, they'll ask about them, especially when they go to search his Twitch account and they find all the websites made about how Hasan has supported groups like the Houthis and Hamas in the past and how incredibly critical he is about Israel and Trump. So I don't think that it's entirely out of the question that the only reason they asked him all of these things is solely because they Googled his name and saw all sorts of stuff about it. And to be honest, Hasan doesn't do himself any favors because he constantly takes the most extreme, most far left position on every single issue. Now, there's nothing legally wrong with that. As you can tell, Hasan was released. However, it is something noteworthy that they might want to check on when he comes into the country, because they might want to write down, hey, we should watch this guy and make sure he doesn't go anywhere like Yemen or Lebanon, you know, places where these groups exist, solely because if he does have an online identity that is tied to these groups, which I don't know if you could say that he's tied to them, but he certainly talks about them a lot, and he certainly says some very, very supportive things about them. So I can understand why the Department of Homeland Security would be concerned. I mean, Hasan is the second biggest political streamer on Twitch, and he's constantly espousing rhetoric that runs counter to the United States government's own stated positions. So yeah, I don't think it's crazy they asked him these questions, and I think that Hasan is kind of being a little bit dumb on purpose when he says that he doesn't understand why they would ask him about this, because anybody with two brain cells to rub together could figure out why they're asking him these questions. And if you think I'm wrong that Hasan is just being dumb, well, let's find out who he actually blames for this, right? Let's take a look. Who does Hasan blame for him being stopped at the border and questioned by the Customs and Border Protection Agency? Let's take a look.
A lot of the shit that, like, the Ethan Kleins of the world have, like, cried about over and over again were unironically brought up in that fucking conversation. And I was shocked. Okay, not like the bleach sword, obviously, but like the Houthi. Like, did you interview a Houthi? It says here that you interviewed a Houthi. And I was like, or was he actually a Houthi? And I was like, he's not. You can look to all of the reporting that came out afterwards and before I interviewed him, that he is not a Houthi, that he is a regular Yemeni citizen. And I said, like, his name is Rashid al-Haddad. He is not even a Shia. And the dude, luckily, again, Iraqi, went, oh yeah, that's right. That's a Sunni last name. Al-Haddad is a Sunni last name. So he must not have been a Houthi. And the very fact that that was like a point of contention that could have fucking gotten me arrested is insane. And I genuinely, in that moment, was thinking, like, these fucking dumbass SlopTubers are actually playing with fucking fire. And I even thought about not even mentioning this because I was like, I don't want to give him any sort of like power over the situation. But like, the reality of the matter is 100% the Trump administration is inadvertently working with a lot of these fucking dipshits. These dipshits are playing a formative role in getting people in trouble with the law.
That's right, Hasan actually believes that the people criticizing him are inadvertently, which in case you don't have your thesaurus handy, basically means unknowingly, you know, not on purpose, working with the Trump administration to get people like him in trouble. And the fact of the matter is that that's an insane assumption. I don't think that Donald Trump is sitting there in the White House watching Asmongold on the big screen TV while sipping some Diet Coke and eating his McDonald's. I don't think that anybody in the Trump White House has any idea about the online stuff that's going on. I think that literally what happened here is they Googled his name and they saw, hey, this guy interviewed a Houthi, which Hasan has suddenly, after the interview, decided that the guy that he interviewed wasn't actually a Houthi. Cat's still out of the bag on that one. I don't think that the Customs and Border Patrol knew anything about Hasan coming in. I mean, they might have done background research. I don't know how in-depth they go on these questions. I think that it was more than likely they just looked him up and they saw all these crazy things that he's done, which isn't exactly people like Asmongold and other YouTubers working with the Trump administration and, you know, setting policy by just controlling the narrative online. It's more that Hasan says so much crazy stuff that in 5 seconds of Googling his name, you see so much crazy stuff that it must have been a massive red flag to these investigators. And in the end, yeah, they determined that there was nothing arrestable because, you know, you can say all this crazy stuff. Hasan has definitely said crazy stuff that he shouldn't have said before, but the First Amendment protections of the United States are pretty strong. That doesn't mean that they can't ask you about it, Hasan. It doesn't mean that it's a problem that they asked you a few questions about your political leanings, because your political leanings are kind of important when it comes to Googling your name and seeing, oh, this guy does all this crazy stuff, right? He's known for his political beliefs. Of course they're going to ask about that. I think Hasan is being absolutely ridiculous about this. I actually believe the Department of Homeland Security when they say that this was just a routine check that they do to everybody, because I 100% guarantee that they just Google anybody who's coming through and they say, oh, this guy is this guy works for a bank, this guy works for a zoo. And then they Googled Hasan, they said they saw all the stuff about him being an extremely left-wing political commentator, and they said, that's a red flag. So, I mean, what do you guys think? Do you think I'm right? Do you think that there was no pre-planned stuff here? Or do you think that Hasan's actually secretly under investigation and that's why they stopped and questioned him? Honestly, either one of them could be true. It wouldn't surprise me either way, but let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you so much for watching all the way till the end. Remember to like and subscribe. Have a great day, and God bless you.